Hello again, welcome back. Now I'm going to look at what the hell is this, which is Dungeons and Dragons. But I'm also going to look at the new Dungeons and Dragons film, which is not a what the hell is this situation. So it's a bit mixed. Like one of them is one of the worst films I've ever seen. Another one is quite enjoyable. But yeah, I knew that I'd have to do what the hell is this on Dungeons and Dragons, the original, a while ago, but I was waiting for the new film to come out because I thought it'd be simpler to do then. And it means I could put off watching this horrible, horrible film for a while. Because I never saw it once, and that was when it came out, which I saw it on DVD, I think. A friend and I watched it, well, absolutely hammered. And even then, with lots of alcohol, we still had trouble sitting through it all. And then when I rewatched it for this video, it took me 3 times to watch it because I had to stop every so often because it was too painful. It really was impossible to sit through. It was really, oh my god, it's hard to explain how difficult this film is to sit through, how painful, especially when you see it in contrast to the new one, which is doesn't do anything new, but is delightful in how it actually knows what it's about and knows what the characters are and knows what the world is. And it knows it's taking a generic idea of Fantasyland and having fun with it. It's so different, but they're trying to do the same thing, which is a comedy action adventure movie. But one gets it so right, one gets it so wrong. So we'll start with the worst one. This is this is terrible. So as you can see behind me, this is the special effects we put up with in this film. They all look like they come from, CGI of, like early 1990s. Like when it first started, they could barely do anything with CGI. And then over time, it got better. So you got to imagine the CGI behind me was made around the same time as Lord of the Rings and the Star Wars prequels, which had much better CGI. That's how bad the CGI is here. It's so terrible in every possible way. It's so lifeless. And even when it came out, it was like, this is the best you could do for the special effects. What is going on? This is like a computer game. And it is. It's a computer game. It's nonsense how they shoot it. It pretty much is almost the filmmakers begging for a lawsuit for, for promising effects they couldn't deliver, because it's like you deliver this film, say come and see this film with a dungeon with dragons and with all these special effects, and then you see a film and it's like every effect is terrible. It's just shameless. And that's not even the worst of it. I mean, yes, when they cut to the special effects in any sequence, it's laughable how bad the special effects are, how terribly they interact with the live action, how weak they are. But that's the best part of the film. That's the only part of the film that's entertaining. The rest of it is much worse. The plot's so dull that you keep on forgetting what it is because you're so bored watching it. The only time it livens up at all during the live action sections when Richard O'Brien shows up for like 2 scenes, and because he's in whatever film he's in is a much better film in his head than what we're seeing here. But that's it. But most of the time, it's about these 2 thieves. One of them played by Marlon Wayans, who's absolutely appalling in this film. It's one of the worst performances you'll ever see in a film. It's so bad. It's cringeworthy watching the whole time. It's just so terrible. And so these 2 thieves try and steal stuff from this Wizard Academy because there's been chaos going on. Like the rivers on fire, the people in charge of the city are being awful to the poor. So these 2 idiots decide this is the perfect time to go to the Wizard Academy and steal stuff. Which basically is the reason that happens is when you get the plot moving. But it doesn't make any sense. They should be running from the city at that point. But no one seems to. It's weird. Like, it's a film with no motivations. And Jeremy Irons, and I don't know how much he get paid for this one, but hopefully there was a lot, is hamming it up as this guy who's try to take over the city, and he's all this magic. He's got all these people behind him, but he's operating a green screen. Usually, that's what you feel like it's happening never looks in the same place as the people he's interacting with for most of the time, and he's in way over the top as if he's nothing to work with. And he's at terrible lines, and he's trying, but it's obviously he has nothing to work with, like at all. So him and Thora Birch, who plays the Queen, who is fighting for the people, and he's the villain trying to fight against them. They're in green screens for most of the time, and they're isolated from the rest of the cast. And you kind of get the feeling that those two were brought in, and they did the scenes probably about 2 or 3 days each, maybe a week. Because they're in the beginning, they're in at the end, a couple of scenes in between. But most of the scenes seem isolated from the rest of the film. And it just feels like, oh God, we need to spend money on people with a name just to try and release this film and sell it. So we'll try and do this at a certain point in the film. Because they do not interact, and they look so awkward, and they look as if they don't know what they're looking at half the time. They're just working with very bad dialogue, and you just feel bad for them because it's like you have so much more talent in this film showing. This is just embarrassing. So those scenes, which at least you have the enjoyment of watching decent actors fail horribly with terrible dialogue and terrible circumstances. Watching Jeremy Irons trying to act against some of the worst CGI dragons ever will never not be funny. But it's like you do feel sorry for them a little bit. They took the money, but the rest of the film is much worse. Because even though those scenes are terrible, and you've got such terrible interactions between different CGI things going on that you just feel like no one's ever in the same room ever. And, it's just terribly done. At least you've got the fun of that. And the rest of the scene, you've all these two thieves who end up working with this wizard assistant. Wizard's killed. She and these two guys are on the run, trying to survive, and they're all having a competition to see who can be the worst actor in the film. That's pretty much what it is. They all pronounce every bit of dialogue as if they don't understand English, and they're just doing it phonetically. That's the best explanation I've got for most of these acting in this film. It's like they don't understand what they're saying most of the time. They don't understand context of what they should be saying. Like the lead guy, he looks as if he watched Star Wars a few times and is trying to be Harrison Ford, but doesn't know how to be it. And nothing ever really works with him. He's really bland. So it was even more annoying than the other two. The other two, at least Marlon Wayans and the actress, they're going so over the top and so pathetic and so horrible. At least it's entertaining. The bland guy, the lead, is like, I'm falling asleep watching this guy trying to act and never emphasizing what it needs to emphasize. And what's worse is they're in a quest where you don't understand why they're in a quest. Like, you understand them in a quest to save this society, but you don't understand what they're doing most of the time. You don't understand, because really, it's not like it's complicated. You just can't listen to exposition for too long without falling asleep. And they go to place after place. They pick up a dwarf who's obviously bargain basement Gimli. They pick up various people. There's an elf who's trying to help them, who has no personality. Again, it's nothing to do with the actress involved. It's just like she's not giving anything. They meet Richard O'Brien, who's the head of the thieves, and they have to try and go into this maze to try and get this maze that they build up as has killed everybody who's tried, and the hero does it in about 2 minutes, and it's like, it's only a few little things. Surely someone would be smart enough to figure that out. Because it's really easy puzzles. And it's like, that's the whole film, is like, they keep on building these things up, and then you have something that's like idiotic as the explanation. They go to this other place to find this other thing that only the lead character can go into, and it's bargain basement fantasy land stuff. And it's just things happen, other things happen, other things happen, and they've all these explanations and you don't really care. I mean, Tom Baker shows up in one scene, and that's a blessed relief because even though he's spouting gibberish, it's Tom Baker, so we can't go too wrong with Tom Baker. But those are the few times where you actually wake up, because most of the time it is just painful stuff. It's just awful. It's just the most awful stuff possible. And it's like, oh my God, what are you doing most of the time? You just lose the will to actually pay attention to most of the stuff, because it's not just the story is lots of lore that doesn't make sense. There's no character interaction that makes you interested, and the film's shot and edited with no comprehension of like pacing, like shot to shot progression to actually make you interested in the physical feats of trying to get from A to B to C to D in a scene. None of that stuff shot competently. It's just a muddle of different things happening, and you cannot find the energy to follow most of it or pay attention to most of it. And even the rare times it is done competently, which is very rare, it's boring when the after is boring because you can't be bothered listening to the exposition. So it's like they're after something, I don't care. And the end's just oh my God, the end is just things happen for the last 20 minutes and all these CGI. The background is from a CGI battle at the end. All these terrible CGI dragons appear and do the thing, and you go, yeah, that's happening. What's going on? Because they don't explain anything, and you don't really care anyway. And Jerry Mans is doing all this stuff, and it's like, you pretty much tell he doesn't have a clue either. He's just like, I always roar a lot and hope no one knows that this is stupid. It is one of those films where nobody in that cast knew what they were saying most of the time. Nobody cared what they were saying most of the time. Everybody, I don't think anyone in that film thought they were a good film. It's just like there's just nothing there. It is just one of the worst films. It's just so incompetent. It's so incompetent in a way that there's no defense against it. There's no defense how bad this film is. It's just so terrible. It is definitely one of the bottom 3 or 4 films I've covered in this series. It really is. It's just so terrible. Now, Dungeons and Dragons, the new one, I'm not going to say much about it actually. Just to say go watch it. It's really good. It does everything that the other film didn't do. It has characters you like. It has goals that you can follow. Here's the thing, like the first one, this film sets it up, has goals for the small group of characters, they accomplish their goals, they go and they win. Except at each point you know what the goal is, the action's covered so you know where they're going from A to B, the characters make sense, and they have actors who are engaged with the characters and have some sense of humour and understand this is the point of all the jokes. And you engage throughout. I mean, there's nothing new in the plot because they're not trying anything new. It's like a lot of the jokes are based on you understanding these are all cliches of this genre. It's not Airplane where it's taking piss at everything, but it does understand that you've seen some fantasy movies. You know what the general cliches are in these fantasy movies, and it's having fun with them all. And it's like, this is exactly how you do this kind of movie. It's like, you don't need to be astonishing original, but you need to understand the rules. You need to understand where they're going, what's happening, why it's happening, and why I should care. So in this one, Chris Pine plays this guy who lost his wife, and his daughter is now being looked after by Hugh Grant, who's the villain, and she thinks that her father betrayed her and Hugh Grant's a nice guy. To defeat Hugh Grant's character and his villainous comrades, they have to go to find these various things in the fantasy land they're living in. He's got Michelle Rodriguez as his potato-loving, warrior. You've got this wizard called Simon, who's a terrible wizard, who learns as he goes on to have some self-respect. And you've got this woman who can turn into these different animals. And all the characters, none of the characters are wonderfully deep or anything, but they're played by people who understand the joke of the character. They're played sincerely, so even though they've jokes about how incompetent some of them are and how terrible they are at their jobs, it's still fun. You still know the characters mean well. So even like the girl who can turn into animals, she's not developed especially strongly, but it's still a fun character. They do enough to keep you interested, and it's like, okay, yeah, a sequel, we can develop a bit more. And everybody knows what they're doing. And they're led by Chris Pine, who's an actor who understands this type of movie, so he can ground it in the right kind of sense of humour to make everything else make sense. Because you understand the character and the tone of the film straight away from him and the other actors around him, and then they can expand upon the world. So you have a character you're interested in, you have an actor who understands what he's doing, and you have a director to understand the tone they're going for, and what's important and what's not important, so that anything that's not important gets shirked, and anything that's important gets foregrounded. And even though they're not doing a very complicated story, you always know why you're going somewhere. What are the problems? What are the threats? What do they have to overcome getting there? What do they know? What do they not know? And it's done within comedy scenes, so you're not doing exposition scenes, you're just doing comedy scenes. Doing exposition, you're getting lots of humour, which shows you more character work, and you are always getting information you need without it being a drag. They've good supporting characters, like there's this one guy who helps them for a bit, who is a know-all, and they've tons of humour with that guy. And there's other bits where they go to a grave to find information, and that becomes a running gag because they keep on messing it up through different ways. Hugh Grant plays a character who's just a total charlatan. He's just out for himself, he's selfish, and he's not that bright. And it's fun as hell. And everybody knows what they're doing in this film. The effects are good and cartoonish in the right way, with a sense of they're not trying to show you this is a realistic dragon. They're showing you this is a Fantasyland dragon that fits in the tone of the story, and we're not going to overdo it. We're just going to give you them at certain points in the story, and the rest of the time it's going to be let's set this world up, expanding the world, expand the characters. It's perfect for what it needs to be. You know, it's one of those films you can easily rewatch it because there's lots of little details, lots of little things that are going to happen in the film that tie into other things that happen, and it's like, okay, this is exactly what it should be. This is exactly what this film needs. And it's a blessed relief after that first one, because I saw these both over one weekend, and it was the most extreme whiplash from complete incompetence on one side and then complete competence on the other side. You know, even though neither of them they're doing an adaptation of a board game, so you're not actually going for high art. But if you're going to just do entertainment, the new one's how you do it. And the old one is like how you do not do anything. It's astonishing, though, the original one is astonishing how bad it is and how incompetent it is. It's like you can't quite believe how this get through a system. So I'll leave you there. I don't want to repeat myself too much, more than I already have. But yeah, if you want a laugh, watch the original. But if you want a good, fun film, watch the new one. The new one's a lot of fun. And if the film had been marketed properly, it would probably be a lot of money by now, but it wasn't. So it'll probably be found more in streaming. So I'll see you later. Right, bye for now.